Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into one of the most powerful and, most misunderstood ideas in modern thought, deconstruction. It's a concept that's going to make you rethink everything you know about words, meaning, and maybe even yourself.
So here's our roadmap. First, we're going to figure out what deconstruction actually is. Then, we'll get into its wild view of language, see how that helps us spot hidden power structures, and apply it to reading a book. And we'll wrap up with the biggest question of all, what does this mean for the story of you?
All right, let's jump right in. Part 1. What in the world is deconstruction? Let's get past the confusing reputation it has and get to what it's really about.
At the very heart of deconstruction is this one really provocative question. It just flips our entire way of thinking on its head. It asks us to imagine that language isn't just a simple tool we use, but a system that is actively building the world we see around us.
So what is it? Well, you can think of deconstruction as a kind of X-ray for our thoughts. It argues that language isn't some clear window we look through to see reality. Nope, it's more like a pair of glasses, with a prescription you didn't even know you had that's already loaded with beliefs and values.
And this is key. The goal isn't to just destroy meaning. It's to make us sharper thinkers. It's like being a mechanic for ideas, right? Deconstruction gives you the tools to pop the hood on an argument, see what hidden assumptions are making it run, and most importantly, spot where it might be breaking down on itself.
Okay, so how does it do all this? Well, it all starts with a truly radical, kind of mind-bending theory of language. This is the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about.
Now, this is a huge claim, and honestly, it's a little strange at first. It says that words don't actually point to things in the real world. We think the word tree points to that big leafy thing in the park. But deconstruction says, no, the word tree only gets its meaning because it points to other words, like leaf, branch, wood, green. It's all just a closed loop.
So what we think of as thought is just this endless, chaotic chain of words bouncing off of other words inside our heads. It's a constant flow that never actually lands on a single, final, solid meaning out there in the real world.
And think about it. If every word just points to another word, which points to yet another, we never really arrive at a final definition, do we? The ultimate meaning we're chasing is always just around the next corner, always postponed.
The philosopher who started all this, Jacques Derrida, came up with a really clever term for this: difference. It's a pun, basically. It captures two ideas at once. Meaning is always deferred or postponed, and meaning only happens because words differ from each other. Hot only means something because it's not cold.
Okay, so why does any of this matter? I know it's abstract, but this is where it gets really powerful. This is how deconstruction becomes a tool for seeing power structures that are hiding in plain sight, baked right into the words we use every single day.
Just think about how we talk. So much of our language is built around these pairs of opposites: good and evil, man and woman, reason and emotion. We use these constantly to carve up the world and make sense of it.
But here's the kicker that deconstruction points out. These pairs are almost never equal. One side is almost always seen as the good one, the privileged one. I mean, think about it. A decision based on reason is considered strong and smart. One based on emotion, well, that's often seen as weak or irrational. That's a hidden power hierarchy right there in our vocabulary.
And this goes way deeper than just a few word pairs. For centuries, a lot of Western philosophy has been on this epic quest to find some kind of ultimate, stable center for reality, something like God or truth or reason that could anchor everything else.
This is where deconstruction asks its most dangerous question. What if that solid gold center, that truth with a capital T, isn't actually outside the system? What if it's just another word, floating around in that endless game of language with all the others?
And if that's true, well, suddenly the whole structure collapses. It decenters our whole worldview. It suggests that our belief systems, which we thought were built on solid rock, are actually built on the shifting sands of language itself.
Okay, let's take a deep breath. I know that was abstract, so let's bring it all down to earth and see how this works when we actually apply it to something concrete, like reading a book.
When you read a book with a deconstructive eye, you stop looking for the one true meaning. Instead, you see the book as this wild playground of conflicting ideas, all duking it out on the page. You're not trying to find one single answer. You're trying to see all the unresolved arguments happening at once.
So how do you actually do it? Well, you become a kind of literary detective. First, you find the book's main conflict. Something like nature versus civilization.
Then you figure out which side the book seems to be rooting for, and then you start hunting for clues, a weird line of dialogue, a strange plot twist, where the book accidentally trips over its own feet and argues against itself.
And this is the really cool part. The critic isn't forcing some outside idea onto the book. They're just pointing out how the book is already fighting with itself. The text, in a way, provides all the evidence you need to take apart its own main argument. It deconstructs itself.
All right, we've talked about language, we've talked about books. Now for the final step, where we turn this powerful lens onto maybe the most personal thing of all, our concept of the self.
The logic here is pretty straightforward. If our entire experience of reality is built out of this shaky, unstable system of language, then it follows that our sense of who we are is too. We are also texts, unstable, ambiguous, and full of multiple meanings.
What that means is there's no single, stable, real you at your core. Instead, who you are is more like this dynamic force field of competing stories and beliefs that you've picked up from the world around you. You are a living text that is constantly being written and rewritten.
Now, this might sound a little scary, like nothing matters, but that's not the takeaway. The point isn't that meaning is destroyed. The point is that meaning and your identity is something that is constantly being created, challenged, and remade, which leaves us with one last, pretty big question to think about when it comes to our own stories.